I'm Pat Gales, and I'm the chairperson of the Friends. We've been doing this for a number of years now, so we think we're kind of experts at moderating it, but we're not really sure, so it's kind of informal, just bear with us. We have a new mic system. I guess we're coming on up in the world here. At the table they have microphones, so that you will be able to hear. Right there is a microphone. If you have a question, we're going to ask you to come to the microphone to ask your question. And this is because it's easier for cable to pick you up rather than if you're in the audience and you're trying to talk, the question isn't always heard. So if you have a question, I'll call on you, you can come up to the mic and ask your question. The format is, we're going to start at the bottom of the ballot, and who's ever here will be able to speak their 3 minutes. After everyone's had a chance to introduce themselves for 3 minutes, we'll open up the floor for questions. You can let us know if your questions are for the selectmen or for Ron from the library. And there were going to be people from the school committee running for school committee here, but I don't see them yet. So each candidate, if it's the selectmen's question, each candidate will have a chance to answer the same question. So that's our format, and you can just bear with us. And let me read who is running. For the Parks and Recreation Commissioner, we have Suzanne P. Cote. Dayton Housing Authority is Annabella Powell. Sewer Commissioner, Carol A. Beauregard. For Library Trustee is Ronald O'Connor. For the Planning Board, it's Joseph Figueredo. Dayton Rehoboth Regional School Committee, Eliza Kucha and Janice Terry. For Board of Assessors, Pamela Waller. For Moderator, William McKeon. For Board of Selectmen, John Taylor, Dean Cronin, and Zachary Karen. So now I would like to have Ron come up first to give his 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank the Friends of the Dayton Public Library for sponsoring this candidates night. I've been a candidate for the Dayton Public Library Board of Trustees now for a 4th time. This is the first time I've come to the candidates night. I thought it was a good opportunity for me just to come out and say hello, for you folks to get to know me, and to talk a little bit about the library and why am I doing this. This is, again, my 4th time running. I've run unopposed each time. I'm unopposed this time, so I welcome your votes. The library is an important community asset in Dayton. That's why I do this. The Dayton Public Library has a long history in this town. It's evolved over the more than century that it's existed in the town at its current location, where it's been since 1910. It continues to evolve and respond to the needs of the community. We've become more of an internet-based society, but that doesn't mean that books disappear or that other resources and services that the Dayton Public Library can provide. Dayton Public Library is a hub of the community. Libraries are the hub of every community in the Commonwealth. And that's why I do this, because I see the Dayton Public Library and libraries in general as an important community resource, an important community asset. So as I look forward to my 4th term as a member of the Dayton Public Library Board of Trustees, I also want to acknowledge the wonderful staff that we have. Jocelyn Tavares, the library director, who started just around the same time that I started as Dayton Public Library trustee. And the other staff do wonderful work in the community, in the library, to support the needs of the community. They host programs within the library as well as within the community, often funded by the Dayton Cultural Council, supported also by the Friends of the Dayton Public Library. So I know you're not here to hear me. How many came because, oh, well, I was going to be here from the library. I want to hear you. Thank you. Yes, some of my friends out there. Anyway, I'm here also to hear from the candidates for selection. And so I thank you support in the future on April 8th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. Now we'll hear from our selectmen candidates, and we'll start with the person furthest from you, Jack Taylor.
Thank you, and I appreciate everybody coming out, and I appreciate the Friends of the Library for putting this on. I think it's a wonderful event every year. So as you know, my name is Jack Taylor. I'll be on the ballot as John Taylor, because my parents decided to name me one thing and call me another. So I've been fighting this battle my whole life, trying to explain that off. So anyway, I know a lot of people do, but anyway. So I've had a very successful military career. I spent 20 years in the Navy. I was a hospital corpsman first. I got commissioned as a medical service corps officer. I retired from Naval Hospital Newport as the director of administration. And then from there I went to a number of nonprofits, Child and Family Services in Newport, Providence Community Health Centers, and Visiting Nurses, South Coast Visiting Nurse Association. And the thing about nonprofits, I think much like being a selectman, you're giving back to your community. And I get a tremendous reward out of doing something that I can do to help the community, townspeople. I've lived in Dayton for about 7 years, and I want to be a selectman because I want to be able to move the town in a direction that you all want it to go in. My agenda, your agenda is my agenda. I have no other agendas, I have no hidden agenda. So what you want is what I want. We need to communicate that. My life is based on 3 basic principles: integrity, honesty, and trust. Integrity is what you stand for. My principles, I will never waver from those principles. Honesty, I assure you that when I tell you something, it's the honest truth as I know it. If you want further information about it, please ask me, but I will always tell you what I know is to be the truth. Trust. I look at 2 ways to acquire trust. Some people don't until they make some people don't trust anybody until they're able to make a deposit into their trust bank. I, on the other hand, I give everybody 100% trust until they make withdrawals from that trust bank. And once you take it out of the trust bank, it's hard to put it back in. So I want you to know that going forward. The other thing, being a selectman comes with tremendous responsibility. I assure you, as I've said before, everything I do will be in the best interest of the town. Now, Don Miguel Ruiz wrote a book, The 4 Agreements, and I don't know if anybody's read them, but it's a very good read. The 4 agreements are: don't make assumptions, be impeccable with your word, don't take things personally, and always do your best. I try to live by these principles, and I will continue to as your selectman. Don't assume that I know everything you know. Don't assume that if I'm involved in a discussion or a decision, oh jeez, that I know it all. One last point. Dayton has about 8,000 residents. We have very low participation. It's a good turnout tonight, though. But I want to figure out how we can give you a better opportunity to participate. And I would welcome, when I become selectman, I welcome your input to figure out how that can be done. The last thing I just want to say, vote on April 8th. It doesn't matter who you support. Vote for the person you think should be selectman, but vote. The men and women of our armed forces have made many sacrifices, so we have the right to vote. So I would just ask you, please do that. Thank you.
Okay, Zach Karen is next.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Zachary. I am running for the selectmen. I would like to thank the Friends of the Dayton Public Library for hosting this event tonight, and the middle school for allowing us to use their facilities. I would also like to thank the residents of Dayton for coming and showing your support and your dedication. It's not just the candidates' voices that have to be heard tonight, but yours as well. I would like to acknowledge my 2 opponents, Mr. Taylor and Selectman Cronin, who have been very respectful and cordial throughout this whole campaigning process. I have been serving on the zoning board for 3 years, where our primary purpose is to put the residents' concerns first, something I would take pride in doing as your selectman as well. While working towards my degree in paralegal studies, I was also working full-time at Hannaford Supermarket. By doing so, I've learned to balance many commitments, and I will continue to do so if I'm elected. I am running for this position because it's time for the town of Dayton to have a fresh, young, energetic voice, and I know it can provide just that. If elected, I hope to encourage those my age and younger to take part in their town, and I will lead by doing the example. I have lived in Dayton my whole life, and I feel it's time to give back to the town, and what better way to do so than to stand for and work with the residents. I have one immediate objective: to listen to the residents. I feel the position of selectman is best fulfilled when people around them are represented and the progress is not just achieved for them, but with them as well. I'm very excited to be here tonight, and I have a wonderful experience so far. Thank you very much.
And now Dean Cronin.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to reach out and thank you all for coming out tonight. And a special thanks to the Friends of the Public Library for hosting this again. This is the first time I've been able to come to this venue here. We've always had it in the basement of Town Hall, my last 2 times. So this is a little bigger turnout than we usually have. Again, my name is Dean Cronin. I am completing my 6th consecutive year as being your elected selectman. Out of those 6 years, I feel it an honor from my fellow colleagues who were on the board with me at the time, that 5 out of the 6 years, they have made me the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. That's an honor, and I'd like to thank those people who bestowed that on me. Back in 2011, when I first ran for the position of selectman, I had made a few promises on my platform, one of which stated that if I was elected, I would make myself available in Town Hall, Monday through Thursday, for the sake of the residents, whether they had questions, concerns, issues, they want to just communicate or talk. I have done that. Contrary to the belief of some of the rhetoric that goes around town, that the selectmen spend too much time in the office, they don't have money to spend. It's a fallacy. On an everyday basis, there's at least 2 or 3 dozen residents that come to the door of the selectman's office looking for advice, communication, answers to questions, and just general talk. It's very disheartening when a resident who pays the taxes that they do come to the selectman's office and there's no one there to confront them or talk with them. I made that promise and I stuck with it. The second part of my platform, which I'm proud to say, is I made a promise that I would make educated appointments, and I would do that based on a person's experience and qualification, whether it be an employment opportunity or a vacancy on one of our committees. It's not just for the sake of filling a seat to have somebody go to committee meetings, and most of these in town are voluntary without having some kind of experience. To fill a seat does not fulfill the need of that committee. I'll finish up on my conclusion. Can I? All right. I've already heard my 2 opponents mention the word change, go a different direction. I would like to say this about the word change. If it is change that the people sitting here tonight and anyone else who will see this tape later on, if it's change you're looking for and drastic change, then you should vote for one of my 2 opponents. But with the word change and a vote to accept that change, you will also be accepting inexperience as far as municipal government's concerned. You will have little or no experience in union contract negotiations, which are very costly to taxpayers. And you'll have little or no experience in town government's everyday functions. That comes with change, to no fault of anyone. So I do reach out to people sitting here, and again, everyone who comes out to vote, please vote, but vote wisely. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll open up the floor for questions. And remember, if you have a question, we'd like you to come to the microphone so that your question is picked up by cable. Okay. Everyone's running for the microphone. Go ahead, sir.
What is your, what? All about it?
Yeah. Don't you just love new things?
What is your position on the town's urgent need for the appointment of an administrator that has already been approved by the town?
Okay, and that's for the selectman to answer, correct? Not the library trustee? Okay. We just want to be clear. Okay, Dean, would you like to start to answer that?
What is the need?
What is your position about the town's urgent need for appointment of an already approved administrator?
I do know that was already voted on and approved at town meeting
Yes, I
to
know.
go ahead. We have had a committee that has interviewed once already. We didn't get the amount of qualified applications that we thought we would get compared to the original first time 2 years ago. My take on it is the town, I believe, is ready and willing to accept the town administrator, but I don't think they fully understand the cost and the price tag that's going to come with it. We're looking at a increase in a budget line of well over $200,000. Just because I said 200,000. I do believe there is a need for one. We're having trouble getting qualified candidates, and I reached out in the last few weeks to do a little research. A lot of candidates that do have experience do not want to come to a town that has never had a town administrator before, because it's too much work to set it all up. And for the price tag that the towns usually start off with, it's not worth the hours they have to put in. Contrary to belief, the selectmen, I don't believe, will work any less with the amount of tasks that are involved coming out of that one office every day. Town administrator knows that he has to address them and be made aware of it, so he's looking to try to accommodate 3 other people while he's trying to set up the way a town administrator will fit this town. I don't think the time is right now until we can find a qualified one. We have, as of today, 14 applications, and we've advertised all month. Now, these are just 14 with resumes. Doesn't mean they're qualified people. We'll go through that. We have a very dedicated committee that has been researching and screening these applicants. They send us 2 or 3, and then we do further checkups on them, background, and much to our dismay, the last pastor we had, when we went deeper into their backgrounds, they had all been asked to leave their former positions with severance packages, and the third one wound up with his hand in a cookie jar in a little scam. So we're still looking.
Zach?
The way the position is currently defined, it's not something that I'm for, to be honest. I don't feel like the town cannot absorb that expense at the moment. It would not be worth our return on investment. Since the position has been voted on and has been posted and people have applied for it, I feel like it would be beneficial to approach neighboring towns, smaller towns, and ask them if they would consider maybe sharing a town administrator. Just because I feel like that would help reduce the cost to taxpayers and make it more financially viable for the town.
Thank you. Jack?
Yeah, I'm fully in favor of a town administrator. I think we need a town administrator. I think we've needed one for a long time. I think we proved, I believe, at the last annual meeting, and I think it's too long, and we need to get a town administrator. Now, obviously, I would agree with Dean, we need to get someone who's qualified, but I believe there's a lot of qualified people out there. I'm not necessarily of the mind that everybody that comes into a position needs to know everything about that position. If you have strong work ethic, if you're intelligent, and you have some basic background, then people can move into a position and do it. I mean, I've done it my whole career. You know, when I left the Navy, accounting is different. I was direct administration, but also comptroller. That's totally different than nonprofit accounting and nonprofit financial management. I've learned that. And between the nonprofits I've worked at, it's also so you can pick that stuff up. So I'm highly in favor of it. The other thing, when we go to union negotiations, I'd love the town administrator to work with me because I've done numerous union negotiations over the course of my career, both in the Navy and with the nonprofits I've worked with. So I have a lot of experience in that area. Thank you.
Can everyone hear the candidates? Okay. Not really? Not very well. Well, we were trying the new mic system, so. Yeah, we can take a break for a few minutes to see if they can get it working. If not, we'll just pass the mic.
Dave, did you put this on pause?
I didn't touch it.
While they're working on the mics, we're going to take a break so that we can do the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you will, excuse me, what's
Hello. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. We can pass the mic if we have to. Yeah.
Yours is working perfect. Yours is perfect.
the mic to ask your questions. So you can ask your questions from the seats. Either we have no microphones, or we have plenty of microphones and just can't get it to work. So thank you for bearing with us. And the next question, sir?
Yes, I'd like to ask the selectmen, what's going on with our police station? It's been taking an awful long time. Every time I hear about it, the price of it's going up and the building is getting smaller. And I don't think we've even broke the ground yet. Can you give me an update on what's happening with that?
All right, Zachary, you're first this time.
As far as I'm aware, they are breaking ground in April or May, I believe is from what I've heard. I believe it's the price tag, I believe last election was $5.2 million. And as far as the status, that's as far as I know on the subject.
Yes, I went to the last police station committee, which was a couple weeks ago. There's another one tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. It'd be good if people went to it. I think they've made tremendous progress. They're ready to get to the final steps before they break ground. And the price tag, as you know, is $5.8 million, I think. And that'll be it. I don't think it's going to go up anymore, but I think that's my opinion. It can't go up anymore. You know, we've already been there a few times. So.
Dean? You have a working microphone, Dean?
This one, version number 3. The next meeting of the Dayton Police Station Committee is next Tuesday, 10 a.m. in the morning, I believe. 10 a.m. The price tag is $5.9 million. They planned what a lot of people don't realize is when that building and project was cut down in size to almost half of what it originally was, going back a year and a half, 2 years. They went to another town meeting to actually build a police station this town needs to get us 15, 20 years out, not 5 years and then go through the same scenario again. So we're back up to a good-sized building, which will get us 20 years out, $5.9 million. They expect to, they are working presently as we talk on brand new blueprints and designs, because obviously the building's changed, it's back to the size that we need. And they expect to break ground in August. So that is the latest that we have been told. Thank you.
Okay. Questions? Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Pete from Dayton, obviously.
Nice and loud.
From Dayton, Peter. You're going to have an override for the police station. And now I understand there's going to be an override for the elementary school possibility for the addition. And they're talking about new roofs. Where do they expect all this override money to keep coming from? Taxpayers' pockets, obviously? At what point is enough going to be enough where you keep taxing the people where we just can't afford it anymore?
Jack? Yeah.
Could you repeat the question?
Are the overrides just too much? There's an override for the police station. We've improved that. Now we're going to have an override for the school. They're talking about modular units. At what point can we keep? Are they going to keep throwing overrides at us that we have to stop and say enough is enough? We can't, as citizens, just keep affording all these 2.5 overrides.
Well, I think that's a huge problem. I know many people have talked to me about the tax rates. I think the difficulty with it is if we need new schools, we have to do something. Now, I think that I would agree with you, nobody wants to do these overrides and nobody wants their taxes to go up. I actually looked at it, the taxes in Dayton are the 5th highest of all the communities around us, but I looked at about 15 or 20. Commercial tax rate is the 3rd highest of all the communities around us. So there's kind of two ways to deal with the tax issue. One is to bring more commercial property into Dayton, to, have the commercial property offset the personal, residential property tax rate. It's very difficult because Dayton is not, we're not on 24, we're not on 195, and we're not on 495. So it's a difficult place to get to. The committee, Industrial and Commercial Committee, is working on that, trying to find ways to bring in more revenue. The other way you cut taxes is you have to cut something out. And, if you cut something out, that means we're gonna take a decrease in some services. And I'm not in a position to speak about what those could be. I think that's a very complicated effort. The taxes have, well, actually last year I think the taxes actually went down slightly. But over the years you build a community with to meet the needs of the citizens. And at some point, what do you do? You can't keep raising the taxes. I would absolutely agree, but those are the only two ways that I know of, unless you cut expenses. And certainly when I become a selectman, I will look at the expenses and have my input as to what I think we should do. But it's a tough one. I think every community probably in the state is facing the same kind of an issue. When we need new schools and we have all the development we have going on right now, that's only going to make it worse because, for every house that is built that has 2 parents and 2 kids, it costs, I think, around $1.20 for every dollar of taxes you take in. So it's a problem. One of my things I talked about is open space. And open space is a way to preserve open space, keep developers from building on that land that you've designated open space. Now, it's not free. I mean, people that own large tracts of property, can sell it to a developer if they want. What I think we need to do is look at how we can incentivize large landowners to not develop. And the CPC, Community Preservation Committee, will be looking at things like that. That's one of their charges. So I don't know if that's an answer, but it's it's about the best I can do at this point.
Dean?
I just want to back up to your original statement about an override. On town meeting floor, the good people in this town voted for a debt exclusion, not an override. Entirely different animal.
Different, right.
Debt
Regardless
exclusion,
if
once it's paid off, it's paid off.
Right.
Override, you live with it forever.
Right.
So there is no override. Number 2, how much can we take? Well, everyone is in the same boat. Thank God we still have wars. This town is financially stable. It's running on all cylinders. There is no drawbacks right now, but we are experiencing growth pains tremendously. As of 2 years ago, we had the highest growth rate in Bristol County. And it's slowly getting back to normal, but we're still at a percentage, it's higher than a lot of towns in this whole county. How do you rectify it? Jack is correct. You cut services. Do just like Rehoboth did. They cut all their trash pickup, so that everybody has to put a dumpster on their front lawn and get it picked up every 2 weeks or a month, whatever. You cut back, you start jeopardizing your public safety. Because they have the biggest budgets in town, you start cutting personnel. Do you want to go that route? We're biting off our nose to spite our face because our growth, our population is increasing. We need more of this to keep the town safe. So there is no real concrete answer. We have to take the bumps. We have to provide what we need. It's not a case of we're going to build buildings just for the sake of building it because our neighbors have. It's necessary. It's part of growth. We have, even though minimal, the tax rate in this town has gone down 2 out of the last 3 years, which I give credit to the departments and the supervisors and the department heads in this town for being, and of course the finance committee, for paying attention and keeping close abreast of spending. I don't wanna see the town go backwards. I don't wanna see them suffer. I don't wanna see them give up, things that we're accustomed to. And should that be the case, it's gonna dwindle down to the schools. And you know what happens when you start cutting the schools and money away from schools? It's gonna affect the whole town. So that's where we stand. We'll get there. I know we will, because the people in this town always have found a way to get through tight times. And they will continue to do so.
Zachary?
It's certainly great to hear that taxes have gone down over the past couple of years, but with a new police station, the potential for a new library, town administrator, Board of Health, I believe, and now the separation, I believe each member I've heard is going to be possibly getting $5,000 stipend. Taxes are only going to go up from here. I don't see how they could possibly go back down. Cutting services, and I personally would love to, as selectmen, revisit these committees and see where and why they decided to put dollar amounts and figures. Well, why is the Board of Health stipend hypothetically $5,000? Can it be lower? Town administrator, it's going to get most likely a full-time secretary. What salaries are we going to be looking at? Is there a lower, more cost-effective way of doing so? So I think we can't deny that, taxes are going to be going up. It's a matter of why, and can we bring them down as much as we can and still work with what we're given.
Can I follow up?
Sure, go ahead, Peter.
Sorry for speaking on the 2.5 and the exclusion. I didn't mean to say that the 2.5, the police station was going to be a permanent 2.5 override. How much do we get in free cash on average per year? Dean?
Luckily, you're first this time for real.
It fluctuates.
Okay, on average.
It really fluctuates. I've been here when it's been 200,000.
Okay, so let's say it's 200,000. Why do we spend it? Why even is it a portion of it spent? If we know we're going to have a police station coming up, or in this particular case, the debt exclusion, why don't we save it, or why don't we spend it towards the addition that's going to go on in the school, or spend it towards the police station? Why for the last 3, 4, 5 years, when we've known this police station is going to come through, why haven't a portion of that, like Rehoboth has, taken a big chunk of that and put it towards their municipal building that they've had coming up for the last 5 or 6 years?
So Peter, your question is why aren't they using free cash to offset some of these costs?
Correct.
All right,
So
Dean?
why haven't you used free cash, a large portion of it, to offset this police station that we've known for the last, I've been with you for the last 6 years, that we've known this police station is going to come up? Why haven't we used this, or part of this free cash?
Well, free cash has not just disappeared.
It
What we don't use goes back into, number one, general fund.
goes back into the general fund,
We
which
have a
gets,
certain amount that has to
gets
be
spent.
put
Peter,
into the
answer the
stabilization.
question, please.
Sorry.
There's a certain amount each year that Finance Committee, in agreement with the Board of Selectmen, feel it should go back in the stabilization account for a rainy day. We have used the free cash for the last 2 years to pay off current bills to the architects and the project manager on this police building project. That they don't work for free just because the building's not going up. We've been paying them from free cash, which means in the long run, if the building's $5.9 million, we're not gonna borrow $5.9 million because we've already offset some of the costs. Our procurement officer, our liaison, Jen Louise, who's also the accountant, and our treasurer, been very vigilant, have not even signed the papers for that loan yet. Had we signed them way back when, we would have been paying interest on that money. So they have saved this town tens and tens of thousands of dollars in interest because we have offset expenses with free cash.
So
it
you're
has
saying
been done.
it's not gonna be 5.9?
Okay, Peter, we're gonna let the other candidates address the free cash issue, and then we're gonna move on.
exactly how the free cash has been spent. As someone who's not a sitting selectman, I can't answer how and why they've chosen to put the money where it belongs.
Yeah, again, I don't know the details of the way free cash has been handled, but I will say this, that, I do know a lot of it has gone into the stabilization fund, which is not a bad thing. I mean, you have to have some stabilization funds there so that if you have a real emergency, that you have some place to go to do what you have to do. I do think we should all look at that every year and say, are we putting the right amount, are we putting too much into that account? And I know the Finance Committee looks at that every year and reviews it pretty thoroughly. So again, I'm not able to speak specifics because I don't know specifics about the budget yet and what the free cash situation is. But that's how I would approach it.
Thank you. Another question. Ed?
I'd like to follow up to the doctor's question earlier on the town administrator, because I listened to the answers, and those of you who know me know that issue was near and dear to my heart, and it took me almost 5 years to finally get it on the warrant, through the warrant, and as the chairman of the Finance Committee, I've pushed for it for a long time in town. So my question is, I heard one of the answers say that the role of the selectmen won't change much if we have a town administrator. I'd like each of you to explain what you see the role of the town administrator as versus what the Board of Selectmen is. Thank you.
Okay, Zach, you're first.
From what I understand is that the town administrator will sort of be, I don't want to say a figurehead, but a mouthpiece for the Board of Selectmen, which I feel like is a great idea. If you have a cohesive board, you might not need that. So I feel like I don't want to say it's a selectman assistant per se, but with the selectmen, a lot of selectmen have other commitments. There are many board members on other committees with other commitments. I would love to see the town administrator meet with all the committees every week and then report back to the selectmen of how the other committees are running.
Well, I see it a little bit differently. The town administrator I'll equate it to a corporate model, is the CEO of a town. They do the day-to-day operations. They manage the departments. They create the budget with the assistance of the departments. The selectmen are not the day-to-day operators of the town. The selectmen are like a board of directors. They set broad policies. They set policies, give a direction, do some higher level planning about what where the town is going, and that's the role of the selectmen. And certainly, I think a town administrator would be there every day to do the day-to-day stuff. I don't think the selectmen should be there every day because that's not their role. Now, in the current situation, maybe it has to be because we don't have a town administrator. But I think it would make things work much better if we had a town administrator. Thank you.
Dean?
Ed, I knew we wouldn't get through the night without this. And Mr. Schwartz, for those that don't know, he has been a big proponent, and he's worked hard. And, I think he went out and celebrated the night that it was voted in at town meeting. To answer your question, I wish I could tell you what I believe the role should be compared to what it might be and what they think it is. The selectmen right now, if they are not responsible for the day-to-day operations, to overlook what's going on a daily basis, this town administrator, who has major, I call it legwork that he will do for the Board of Selectmen as far as contracts, negotiations. Give you an example, right now this is a year that 4 union contracts expire June 30th. He would have his hands awful full. So what happens to the day-to-day operations when he's doing negotiations? I wish I had the answer. I don't know. I've never worked with one. I've never worked around one. I've never been associated with a town administrator. I do know they will do the bulk of the legwork, but other than that, I can't answer that question yet.
I had a follow-up question regarding the comment about, overrides and whatnot. And obviously, we all know in this town the population growth is going through the roof, and we have boards handing out approvals for developments like candy. We have building permits going out through the, going out at a rapid rate. But realistically, you can't keep growing without expecting services to go. But my question, what do you guys have for ideas of, one, how we could curb that, and two, how could we also hold developers accountable so that they finish their projects? I know, first I want to applaud our current boards for finally trying to hold some of the other boards in town accountable for finishing developments that have been sitting unfinished for 13 years, where residents are paying the full tax rates for getting hosed on their services. So with that, my question is, how will you be the voice of these residents who are getting screwed? And second, how curb development?
Yeah, one of my, slowing down stopping development is very difficult. As you know, if a landowner, I said earlier, a landowner owns 40 acres of property and wants to sell it to a developer, as long as he meets the planning board requirements and the zoning board requirements, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. But we can't sit here and say, oh, we don't like it, we don't like it. We have to do something. And my approach will be to look at open space. I mean, that's the best way, in my mind, to do it. The town owns a lot of land. I was just on the land use committee. The town owns a lot of pieces of land around town. But we might have a piece over here, we might have a piece over here. And in between, there might be a private landowner. One thing that I'd like to be able to address is, how do we get that landowner to buy into this, or to give him a conservation restriction so he won't develop his land, or to have the CPC come up with the funds to purchase that piece of property. Now, there's two things that can accomplish. One is it protects that land from development. The other thing, it might potentially block other areas that, that developer might want to go into. So that's my approach at this point. I think we also need to look at our zoning laws. Again, I don't profess to know all about all of that, zoning and planning and stuff. I think we need to look at those closely. As far as your question about how do we get the developers to do what they're supposed to do, I think we need to be much harsher on them in the beginning. We need to be clear. They know what they're supposed to do. And I think at the point that they stop, that they are not doing what they're supposed to do, we need to stop issuing permits or the ability for them to continue to do business in Dayton. But I think you have to do that early on. I know I've been to some of those meetings, and I know some of the things that have been going on in your case. I think it's been, 15 years? That's outrageous, and it certainly should not be that way.
For the most part, in terms of town growth, there's a little that a selectman can do. The town has 800 to 900 Form A lots, which are legally buildable lots. Which if a person wants to build a house there, they can put the house there. There's no, as long as the building inspector can approve it. As a townsperson, if you want to discourage this, my advice would be going to the planning board meetings and voicing your concerns about the size of the Form A lots, and maybe they should be more stringent on developers. As for 40B developments, I know that's a very hot button issue topic in town. The town of Dayton only has to hear possibly one more, not necessarily approved, but hear one more 40B development before that stops our town from hearing 40B quota for at least 2 years. So definitely come to those meetings as well, and please voice your concerns about that, because every resident is allowed and should definitely come to speak on that. And in terms of making sure that developments are completed, as someone who sits on the zoning board, I know the Jim Aguirre, the building inspector, and our administrative assistant, Roz, go through these developments and look to see what things aren't being completed. Now, I believe there's way more in town than we think, so I would love to see the administrative assistant, her job duties increase and more time for her allotted so she can go out and police more of these developers and have the plans in her hands and she can follow along with each house and see what's going on.
first, well, one of three parts. My biggest concern is what you're going through right now. There seems to have been a period of time where the developers were let off the hook as far as posting performance bonds. Any development or developer coming in this town should be forced to post performance bonds for that reason. We got very slack, I don't know what period of time it was, but the occurrences that are happening now were a result of that period of time. That all winter long, for the last 6 years, I get calls, you know, how come my street isn't plowed? You take my $5,800 a year in taxes. You know something, you're right. Call the highway superintendent, go plow that road. But the grates are sticking up 4 inches out of the road, which can damage our equipment that the taxpayers pay for, all because that developer was not forced to put down a performance bond for a case like this. That the money is sitting there when they refuse to do what they were supposed to do, whether it's finish coat the roads, whatever the case is. Then the town steps in, takes over that performance bonds and has it done. A step in a good direction was with our building commissioner when he started understanding that this town was in probably 6, 7 years ago, there was an awful lot of money owed in this town. My first year was 6 or 7 months into it. The delinquent taxes owed in this town was over $2 million. I sat down, myself and 2 other members of the board, one of which is here now, and told the treasurer collector, we're back up her 100%, go get the money. Called in the building commissioner, what can you do? No problem, no permits issued to that developer, that development, for any reason until those taxes are paid. Within the next 3 years, that amount was down to $200,000. So when you hurt a developer in their pocket, and that's gonna hurt them the most, and they can't build more, then they will come up with money. Very frustrating to have a developer come in, want a special meeting with the Board of Selectmen, and bring their lawyer and ask, would you please waive the $487,000 of taxes that are owed on this property? And I said, yeah, when pigs fly upside down. You go to town meeting and you tell the people you're not gonna get $487,000 of tax money so we can build more houses. This is accountability that this town is responsible for, and they'll have to stem and be stringent on making that absolute necessity through the planning board before they okay plans.
Thank you, Dean. Questions? Brandon, did you have a question?
So, I guess is it a fait accompli that we're gonna have a town administrator, or are all 3 of our candidates in favor of a town administrator? Whether the money's been voted or not, or whatever, and then there's a follow-up to that. I'd like to know if they're all in favor of it.
So are you in favor of a town administrator, yes or no answer?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
No, I'm not.
Dean?
I'm on the borderline.
Yes or no?
That's excellent. Now we get real answers. I guess it's more of a comment, but I consider that electioneering when you have people handing out pamphlets at the door when I come in, Jack. Do you want to defend that?
Sure.
The purpose of handing out information is so that people know who the candidates are. You don't have to read it, you don't have to like it, but the purpose is to make the public better informed about who we are as we sit up here so that when you make your choice on April 8th, you know who we are. Now, I don't know how else to do it, and I don't know what the objection is to that.
I also have to say that the Friends don't have a policy when we're holding these nights, whether flyers or information can be handed out or not, so.
Technically, it's legal.
Well-
Technically, it's legal.
It's illegal?
No, it's legal.
Okay.
Morally, I have another issue.
Yes, and I was actually standing with Jack before the meeting started. We were both brought things, but we're unsure until the library friend said that we could. And for the flyer, I passed out a simple business card that just had my name and contact information and just a reminder to vote.
This is my third one, so I knew that we could do it with the friends of the library.
Questions? Yes.
Hi, this is going back to you with the growth in Dayton. I'm a fairly new resident of Dayton.
Speak up, please.
Sorry.
Take the mic, please.
Oh, right, thank you. Since my husband and young children came to Dayton, we use the library frequently. We often have to go to area libraries for children programming due to the absence of resources offered at the Dayton Library, mostly due to lack of space. The Dayton Library is insufficient in many areas. I understand that there is being a study here right now, and that there is an opportunity to get state grant money to help with the needs of the library and its residents. What are the candidates' positions or thoughts on this study? Ron, you can answer as well.
Okay, why don't we start with Ron on that, and then each of the selectmen can have their position.
Well, no surprise, I support efforts to improve library services and infrastructure in the town of Dayton. I've been involved in trying to achieve that goal for actually more years than I've served as a trustee. And since I have a little bit of time, I'm just going to point out, it was a little bit over 6 years ago that we put a brand new building before the voters in the town of Dayton at the state election. There were 2,600 voters who came out for that election. It was a state election. We had a proposal for about a $5 million library. Nearly half of that was going to be paid for out of state funds. Those are state tax dollars that were going to come back to this community to build a community asset, to strengthen the capacity of the library to deliver the kinds of services that you're talking about for children. In those 6 years since that vote in 2010, your children are among the 600 children who have been brought into this town, born in the town. That's an approximate number. We have about 100 children in each of the grades, so I use that number of 600 children who have come into this town since that vote was taken. The difference in the vote in 2010 was 1,600 to 1,000, so it was a 600 vote difference. And in those 6 years, we've also had 600 children who became eligible to vote. So we're now in the process of looking at options that don't involve building a new library. It's using the existing structure, which is actually a community treasure, donated to the community by Andrew Carnegie in 1910. So we have a plan in place that we're going to have a conversation again among members of the community on April 29th and May 2nd. We invite folks to come and provide input into where we are with the process of building on the community treasure that we have in the Dayton Public Library. Thank you.
I've lost. Yeah, go right down the line.
Well, I visited the library. I would absolutely agree we need a new library. I mean, it is so small.
Take 2 children to the bathroom, that's fine.
Pardon me?
Take 2 children to the bathroom.
Yeah, right. So, and it's totally inadequate for our town. But, like anything else, we need to look at what our needs are, what our needs are in the next 5 or 10 years, and prioritize what it is we need to spend our money on. Now, it always comes to the, and I know there's a match involved with this grant you speak of. But even with that grant, it's still a large sum of money, if I understand it, somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 million.
That would be Ron.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics, but just throwing that, I think it's close to that. So I think, as anything else, we need to look at it, and we need to say, is this what we want to spend our money on? And I'm not saying we shouldn't, that's up to the voters of the town. I need to know a little bit more about the grant. I want it right now.
I have newsletters, if you need them.
But I support the concept of a new library because I would agree that's absolutely inadequate. I know you lost the teen room because of the safety issues, and that's a shame because I know it was a place for teens to go. It had no place else to go, and now I don't think we're quite sure where they go, but they don't come to the library. So I know it's not a real definitive answer, except, I think we have to look at the whole fiscal condition of the town. We have school issues coming up. We have the police station we have to finish. So I think we just need to look at everything and say what is the best approach to take for the library, the schools, and everything else. So.
I'm not sure if this is the best approach to say this, but it's from the heart. I completely agree with Jack. I would love to see a new library in town. I just question, should that location still be used? Not to say that building should be torn down at all, because it should absolutely not. It should stay there. I just would, I was at the at the selectmen's meeting when the Board of Trustees presented their findings. And I don't know if you guys saw it online or were there. It was tense. There were things that definitely need to be ironed out. And I can't take a firm stance until we have more definite answers as to the price tag and exactly what the building plans are going to look like. I'm certainly not one side. I'm for a library, but again, I'm for the concept. I would need to see more, and I would need to learn more about it before I made a definite decision on that.
Do we need a new library? Yes, we do. Can we afford a new library right now? No, we can't. Will we be able to down the road? Possibly. Again, priorities. When you look at a town with the growth rate that we have, I believe your priorities should be public safety, number one, education, number two, and then make your list and continue your list after that.
Library education?
Sort of, yes, sort of. Not to the extent of, education as we know. So again, priorities will trump. Can't make a decision right now. I don't know an awful lot about the application that was sent in. What I felt bad about was every time there's an issue or a block in the way of so-called progress, it gets thrown at the Board of Selectmen. We get accused enough of micromanaging all departments. This is a department that we try to stay apart from. They have their own board of directors. They go in their own direction. We are very grateful for them letting us know what they're doing and what their intent is. But again, we don't micromanage it. We don't make the decisions for that board of directors. We'll have to see what comes down the road, and if it's feasible, when the time is right, then the library will be addressed.
Hold on. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah, Timothy F. Ryan's 316 Main Street. This is to the Board of Selectmen. In years past, when issues came up in town, I remember that all three members of the Board of Selectmen would be well versed on a subject and not tasked to do one subject and pass that off on another member. Will all three of you gentlemen be versed on every subject that goes across your desk?
Okay. Dean, since the mic is right there, why don't you start?
I don't have a problem answering that because I think all selectmen should be versed on an issue to some extent. Anytime you have a board of three individuals, each one of them is going to have a strength above and beyond what the other two people have. Since I've been on the board, we've always tried to play off another one's strength and let them more or less be the lead of what they have a little more experience or qualities in dealing with. Not to say that we completely ignore it, but I do think there's a sense of working together and using each one's strength to the advantage for that board.
I think one of the best things about Dayton is that we kind of have the best of both worlds, like how Taunton has a mayor and a city council. For the selectmen, you're kind of both, because you have other people you can talk to, other people you can converse with. So I think, absolutely, I think it would be a shame to do this job and be sitting in a chair making the decision and not be well-versed on a subject. So absolutely, I would definitely say yes to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that certainly before a selectman makes a decision or casts a vote, they need to be fully aware and informed about what the issue is and all the background to it. Now, on the other hand, I mean, good management says you exploit the talents of the people that are available. If someone has a keen interest in a certain area or has a little more expertise in a certain area as a selectman, I don't think there's anything wrong with that person being the lead on that issue. However, that person then comes back to the Board of Selectmen in a discussion at an open meeting, so we can all become aware and informed about the issues and ask our questions. I don't think every selectman can go to every event to get every bit of information available would be crazy. But someone should take the lead, and that person then should bring it back to the board to discuss an open meeting so we can all understand the issue.
You have a follow, is yours a follow-up question or a new question? Okay, new question.
So I heard it touched upon earlier about, someone mentioned about the Board of Health being split from the Board of Selectmen. And to my recollection, I believe that was approved and voted last year by the residents. And I guess my question is, regardless if you guys agree with the issue or not, if the residents voted it should be done, hasn't been done. Well, what's your take and how would you get that done? You know, people ask, you know, same with town administrator, we vote on something, how do you guys get something done that the residents say?
Zachary, you're first.
Yes. As far as I'm aware, there is a Board of Health committee, and they are working on reporting a job description handbook, and they're working on the job qualifications and what exactly will be what it will take for the town to have a Board of Health. If I'm elected, I would be excited to read that. I would be very excited to see a new project like that come to fruition. I am absolutely for the Board of Health split from the selectmen, no doubt. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
As we speak, we're just waiting for the final draft of the Board of Health Research Committee, if you want to call it that. They're going to give us our final recommendations, and that should be forthcoming very soon. Do we want to split it? Absolutely. There's an awful lot of work for what you people think the Board of Health does. It's probably the strongest board there is in a town. It has more powers than most of the other boards. It can throw you out of a house. It can make you move. It does things that Board of Selectmen can't do. So it's very important. And with the growth again, I hate to keep bringing up that word, with the growth, more and more problems constantly popping up. It can be clutter, it can be housing, it can be food. There is so much to that Board of Health. If you look at a handbook that Ms. O'Connor had given this board probably 2 years ago when he had come in and spent time to give us a presentation on regionalizing boards of health. That was something that was current and going on at that time. To read through that book and see the qualifications and the licensing and the certifications that Board of Health people actually can acquire is phenomenal, phenomenal. I'm the first one to admit that I am not trained to be a Board of Health official. Most people who run for the Board of Selectmen are not trained, not well versed in what can be done, what can't be done, and how to do it. We need a Board of Health. Those that know the expectations of what health issues should be in this town.
Jack?
Well, I definitely think the Board of Health and Board of Selectmen needs to be divided, and we voted on that, so I think that is gonna happen. I think over the years, you know, health issues have risen, the regulations, the things that we need to be concerned about as town officials to protect the public and make sure that there's no health or safety hazards is tremendous. And I think that we definitely need a Board of Health that's versed in these subjects and is able to act on what has to be done. So yeah, absolutely. Now why it's taking so long, I don't know that. I haven't been around to be involved in that, but it certainly needs to happen sooner than later. As far as salaries go, I think it was brought up before that my intention will be that the selectman's salary will be reduced at least in half, so there's no additional cost to the town.
I wonder if I could just shed some light on that so people don't,
Go ahead, Ron.
so, taking up my library trustees hat, I'm chair of the Board of Health Organization Committee. We have a 4-person committee that's been working on this since last fall. Just to make this quick, our final meeting will be next Tuesday evening, and we'll be presenting our final recommendations to the Board of Selectmen next Wednesday at their meeting. So we've been moving forward with that. I think made some strong recommendations that will create a high-functioning, robust Board of Health for the town of Dayton, and certainly appreciate the support that we've had from the Board of Selectmen as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Questions? New face.
Yes. I'd like to ask the selectmen to explain why they think we are.
Nice and loud.
What? I'd like to ask the selectmen to tell us why they think that they are more qualified than the two opponents.
So you want to know qualifications,
No,
why they
feel
think
that
they are more
they
qualified?
should get-
Okay,
Have their vote.
why you should vote for me? Yes, Jack.
Because I'm a nice guy. Well, I mean, that's a tough question, but I think, you know, I have experience, as you see, I was a naval officer for 20 years. I have a lot of leadership experience. I've been a vice president and a chief financial officer for 25 years after that. So I have a lot of skills. I have a lot of abilities, I think, to provide some leadership to the town as we try to move it forward. I have a lot of ideas. I try to, I hate to use the term, but I try to think outside of the box. But, you know, so I think that that's what I bring to this, will bring to the Board of Selectmen. And, you know, and I'm not one to say, let's change something. I don't think I've said that in my remarks earlier. I'm not one to say, let's just change everything. I think we need to look at the situation, we need to analyze it, and from there we need to make decisions. The other thing which I think is very important, which I have a lot of skill in, is planning. Planning for the future, planning the short term, but planning also about 5 years. And I think too often organizations, you know, look at the crisis that's coming up in the next year, and that's what we worry about. But when you think about our town, it's not the next year we have to worry about. It's the 5 or 10 years out we have to worry about. So if we want our children to stay here, or we want to stay here, we want to make sure it's the town that we want for that. And so planning is essential.
Being 24 years old, turning 25 in August, there is no doubt, and I have no problem admitting that I have not served on as many boards or been around to experience as many things as my two fellow candidates. That's just the truth, and I have no problem ever admitting that. However, I have other things that I can make up for that. I have a lot of energy. I have a lot of intelligence in terms of I want to learn more. I want to be out there. I want to get to know everybody. I want to know what I can do for the town of Dayton. I also have I've directed community theater productions. So I know what it's like to work on a project. A little different than town, a little different than what you have done for your career, but I know what it's like to work with a team. I know what it's like to have a costume designer, a lighting designer, and many people with different facets coming together to come see a project out. So I think it's a little different, but I think the principles are kind of the same though. And I feel like with aspects like that, I can certainly adapt to become a selectman.
I'm the senior guy. So I have to have a little consideration. No, seriously, I think with the confidence and the support that I've gotten in the last 6 years, I must be doing something right to the point that people have voted me back in 3 years ago, and hopefully they'll do it again one more time. That comes from the Patriots. I think I've shown some proven leadership. I was green when I first started. I had my bouts with business. I had been people to people, person to person involvement, teaching school and what have you. So I did have a little broad range of what I was doing, business-wise, budget-wise, what have you. But I've learned an awful lot. I feel very comfortable where I am. I feel very confident. And besides that, when you are elected on the Board of Selectmen, you learn to buy T-shirts by the dozen with a target on your back, and I still have 4 left, so you have to vote me back in.
Thank you. Any, yes, in the back?
I just have a quick follow-up, and Jack, I think you already answered it. My question was going to be about planning for the future. I've heard it said quite a bit today that there's been a huge population growth over the past 2 years. So my immediate question is, what have we done to plan for that if it's been 2-3 years in the making? Do we currently have a plan today? I think, Jack, you talked a little bit about what you would do. I'd like to hear a little bit about, from Dean, what we are doing, or what he plans to do if he's reelected.
I don't have the ideas right off the top of my head because this is a day-to-day operation in which certain facets enter town, certain interest groups come into town, development. We do have some commercial potential that are on the drawing board right now, interested in perhaps coming into town. Can't divulge anything because this is just the first step of showing their interest. We definitely, as easy it is to say it, we need business and industry in this town. We have the ability and the location and the size of lots that businesses will tend to come to. The problem is our highway system. Everyone that wants to put industry in a town wants access within 5 minutes to a major highway. We really don't have that. You cannot consider 44 and 138 a major highway when they want to send tractor trailer trucks up and down to get to wherever they're delivering their product. What do we have plans? We did spend an awful lot of money on the master plan that sort of laid out ideas and potentials for us. I think the planning board should and perhaps will take a little more of that interest at heart and see, with a little help from their friends like the Industrial Development Commission and some of our other boards, come up with some kind of idea to research and market Dayton for people to come to, especially businesses. We desperately need that. I also feel that this talk that has gone around as far as the old mill up on Spring Street, that's a perfect location. There are some interested buyers for that property right now. And one of the ideas is for housing for the elderly. Not so much as an assisted living, but you pay according to what you can afford. All we have is Lincoln Village, which is a waiting list a mile long for people to get into. There is so much federal and state money available for businesses or development like that, and hopefully with this one interested party, they will convert that whole thing.
I think the point you bring up is a very valid point. And I guess my concern is that the growth we experience now shouldn't be news to anybody. I mean, we can predict in the next 10 years what the growth is going to be in Dayton. And I think like many communities and many businesses for that matter, you kind of wait till the crisis reaches you and then you try and figure out what are you going to do to fix it. And I think that that's a very dangerous place to be. We need to look at where we're going to be in 10 years or 5 years. And we start thinking about it today, not in 5 or 10 years. I think the schools is a perfect example. And everybody has seen the influx of new homes. And I think that's great. We have to have the facilities to educate our children and to be responsible and productive adults. So that's really where I come as far as planning goes. I'm also concerned about the things that have been put on the table over the years but have not come to fruition. I think I've heard this thing about the elderly housing up there at the factory, but I've heard that for years and years, so I don't really know where it is. You know it better than I, but I just think those are the kind of things that we need to get out there, we can push for, and make a difference.
I actually had the pleasure of meeting with the superintendent of schools, Dr. Azar, because it's a huge topic. These houses are being built in town. They're for families. They're 2-3 bedroom houses that have kids. That's what's bringing people to town, which is, I think, is great. He said that the Dayton Middle School, I guess they did a reevaluation, and they have some extra classes that they didn't realize that they could utilize. So the middle school is definitely fine for now. And what I mean by for now, I think they said at least 5 years or so. For the elementary school, which is in more of a dire need, I guess the school, he's heard from the school committee, they are looking at, the term sounds bad, but modular units. Now, a lot of people feel like that's temporary. You're going to spend money on this, and then what, 5 years later, you're going to put on an addition? However, the building that is now it's not a senior center, it's behind Town Hall. That's where I went to kindergarten. That is now completely something different and still being used today, which certainly shows these buildings are not temporary structures. They can still be used later down the road. He said units they're possibly looking at have 10 classrooms, and they're $800,000 to $1.2 million, and they're said to last, quote unquote, from him, over a lifetime. So I think that would be a very good approach, as opposed to having to do what, $5-6 million addition onto the elementary school. And as for business, I love the idea of more business coming into town. I just don't know how realistic it is. When I first started running, I was all about that. But the more people I talked to, a lot of people actually said, no, we don't want business in town. We don't want to turn into a strip mall, which I get that. So maybe we put a stipulation, no chains in town. No chain restaurants, no chain stores. That's something to look at. But we'll see. I would like to talk to town people more and see if business is something that they want the town to take on.
Thank you. Woody, I knew you'd have a question. I was waiting.
I'd just like to say first that housing they're talking about at North Dayton, you can't do that because it would require a zoning change, and that would take a 2/3 majority of the annual town meeting. And we know how that goes. It's really tough to get a 2/3 majority. And I hate to see that industrial land get changed to residential because North Dayton is already the densest populated area in the town. With that said, I'd like to go on my question.
Good.
Okay. My question would be, to the new candidates, of course, Mr. Cronin really don't have to answer.
Yes, he does.
Well, you can, but it's one of those questions where he doesn't have to. I would like to know if you think that you have thick enough skin to be a selectman, like Mr. Cronin said, there will be targets on your back. You need to have thick skin for this job, and how will you interact with Mrs. Goulart and a building full of disgruntled employees? That's all I have.
Dean, didn't you say you had extra shirts?
Wow. That's something that I'm gonna be honest, struggled with my whole life, is having thick skin, until I started doing community theater. And I started to learn that you put a lot of time, a lot of work, and a lot of effort into audition, and people just look at you and say, thank you, next. So I know what it's like for people. You're not gonna get along with everyone. as far as Selectman Goulart, I don't ever anticipate there to be a problem. I mean, we're on the same board together. We should all at least get along, whether we agree or disagree. I mean, we're coworkers, we're friends. I think that's what's most important.
Yeah, first of all, I can work with anybody. I mean, I'm a pretty easygoing guy. The only thing that I think is important, that everybody's on the same page, we treat each other with respect, and we be honest with each other. That's the main thing to working together. Now, I've been in a lot of high-level positions as a vice president, CFO. There's always a target on your back. You know, you can never satisfy everybody. And what I will say about that, though, is you have to, you know, the reason that you have 3 people, or we have townspeople, is not so you can all agree on everything. It's so you can get good ideas out there, and you can discuss the ideas respectfully, and come up with what is the best answer for the town. It doesn't mean it's going to be all your answer. It means it's going to be the best answer for the town. And that requires compromise, it requires negotiation, and it requires working together. So that's what the Board of Selectmen is about. That's what the Board of Selectmen has to be about. You elect the board. I mean, that's your expectation, I would assume. Because that's the only grounds we're doing it. I'm not doing this for any personal gain, believe me. I just think that I can add something with my experience to, you know, to contribute to the board and to the growth of our town. Because I love Dayton. It's a great community. I've only been here 7 years, but I'm more attached to Dayton than I've been to any place I've ever lived. So it's a great community. I want to make it better.
Dean, you can have a chance too.
Did the school committee members who are candidates ever arrive?
No, I don't think so. Ed, do you still want to ask your question?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
It's kind of a statement, and then it's really a yes or no answer at the end.
Oh, I love that.
So, I'm a little confused. We've had 3 questions regarding the town administrator, and I think the answers are a little convoluted because we've heard, only one's been consistent with his, I support having a town administrator, all the way to about 1.5 of the members of the candidates said that they support having a town administrator. So my question is, to each of you, are you committed to implementing the will of the people, the vote at town meeting, the funding at town meeting that's gone on for 4 years? Are you committed to implement, if you're elected, implementing the position of town administrator?
Okay. Yes or no?
Mr. Schwartz, absolutely.
Without a doubt, the townspeople have voted and the townspeople have spoken, and that's the way it's going to be no matter what.
Well, absolutely, I think it is, and the town has, what the town votes for is what we have responsibility to get done. That's what it's all about.
Okay.
Thank you.
A question?
Okay. Okay, the question is, we're back to the mills, and I just came from the Development and Industrial Commission meeting. And you look at the mill, and we have very few areas